Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 46 of Absolute Scenes. To my west, I'm joined by Billy Ruchet, as normal. How are you doing, Billy?
I'm good. The weather is holding off. I'm sure I said the same last week with regards to the weather. It's been great. I can still go outside with PE, which is great. And the kids, I've been playing noughts and crosses with them at the minute. Where
Very active.
But obviously, an active version where they've got to go and run and put the cones in the grid and stuff. Not as in they're going to sit there and do it. Oh, here he is.
Look,
the main man
look
himself.
who it is. He wants to get on the podcast. Say hello, Frank.
For the audio listeners, Frank the cat has just punched Tom in the face as he is obviously upset with him. But no, yeah, it's been good. How have you been?
I'm just trying to think what I've done this week. It's since we last spoke. I had I don't mind sharing now. But when we spoke last, I'd agreed to let my house to somebody. As we finished this, I had a call from the estate agent to tell me that the couple who I'd agreed to let to had split up. So it was back to square one, but now we're back to square two, I suppose.
I mean,
a week
Tom,
on here. So,
Tom, you are renowned for for splitting people up and doing that. I'm joking, of course, but it was literally you text me, half an hour after the podcast going, I'm no longer letting the house. They've split up, and I was like, oh my god, this is in the roundabout world that what's the saying where with your house of how you've been there and not there and everything going around it and stuff like that, it just added to another layer to the onion, as it were.
Very, very funny. But also almost immediately after the podcast, although it was several hours, I suppose, after it was published, but 6 or 7 hours after it was published, it was announced that Donald Trump tested positive for COVID. Well, actually, the order of events was that me and Alex woke up at about 5 o'clock in the morning and both had BBC News. Hope, what's her name? That his aide, one of his aides, had tested positive, and we went, oh, watch out. Then an hour later, Trump and Melania had been tested positive. And then, everything that's unfolded in the last week has been very, very peculiar, but very Trump-like.
I was going to say the shocking part of that story is that it almost certainly shows that Melania and Donald themselves actually spend time together, because if they've both managed to contract it, it means that they do actually spend time together rather than them living in the other ends of the White House and stuff. But it's been bizarre. But saying that, Boris here in the UK, he obviously contracted it and stuff, and obviously they are and things like that, and fortunately or unfortunately, depending on what political sway you have, Boris survived, which and has managed to guide us, if you will, to where we are now. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing again. And now Trump's, but it's quite slightly different with Trump because he's literally been in and out. And people, I know there's a lot of controversy around it, with people saying he shouldn't be out, he should still be in hospital and things like that. It's all a hoax anyway, according to him. So, it's quite funny.
The clip of him walking up the steps of the White House and then taking off his mask like he was some kind of superhero was just sickening, really, because you just know there's so many people who will watch that and think, oh, okay, fine. And then the way that he's spoken about having COVID, it doesn't seem like he's had COVID. Let's put it that way. Or certainly for a man of his age, he hasn't suffered like other men of his age with his build have suffered as well. So
I think like you say, the difference between obviously when Boris, we're going back, our leader, if you will, suffered from it and stuff. He obviously suffered it quite badly. Obviously not to the worst case scenario, but pretty sounds as though he was touch and go at certain points. And he obviously came back and was really saying about how well the NHS and things like that, and obviously promoting that and saying continue to promote whatever it was at the time, stay home, stay alert, wash your hands and all this stuff. Whereas Trump just seems to be like, I'm Batman, look at me take my mask off. The new film, the new Marvel film starring Donald Trump will be out next year. That's how they welcome everyone back to cinemas, and things like that.
Breaking news, after saying about 3 weeks ago, I've given up Twitter. I'm back on Twitter, but very, very, very sparingly. Between the hours of 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. That's when I'm on Twitter. But I did see that Shrewsbury Town have tweeted because I think they've had a game with some fans in as a test, and they retweeted BBC News that from 3 days ago from Boris Johnson, who, because Cineworld is closing, they're closing hundreds of cinemas across the country. He was saying, go to cinemas, you need to support our cinema industry. Shrewsbury Town have then just tweeted a picture of their stand with people spaced out and saying it's outside. Why is this allowed, and why are people being encouraged to go to cinemas? So we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
the Let Fans In movement is going on and on again, and so linked to that, the crazy results that we saw at the weekend. Do you put them down to there being no fans in the ground?
Right, just before we move on with Cineworld and stuff like that, I know we've got obviously there's a lot of people involved in that, and obviously we're saying we're not wanting people to lose their jobs, and I know one of our friends in particular is being impacted by that and stuff, but so we're not talking about it's either fans go to football games and stuff like that. It's just a case of we're saying why aren't they letting fans in football games? And so it's not a case of we're trying to say, right, we shouldn't let them go to the cinema and stuff. We obviously want them to go to both and things like that. So yeah, it's with the results on the weekend and fans, I'm sure they've looked at it from a statistical. I'm doing the bunny ears, as you will, and I think home advantage has become less of a thing. In particular, it's which when you look at the results on the weekend, you could argue, yes, that's the true case. Was where United obviously lost 6-1 to Tottenham at Old Trafford, but then you look at Villa winning 7-2 at Villa Park against Liverpool. So that's swings and roundabouts again. But it's definitely having an impact. The amount you look at the amount of goals that are being scored. Again, that might be something else to do with obviously VAR and the penalty and the handballs and all that stuff, but it's definitely having an impact, especially at the top, because a lot of the players are obviously, they're not having to deal with the pressure and probably a lot more relaxed and able to naturally perform. It'll be interesting to see how teams cope once they come back. Obviously, again, my team in particular, I think what also might be impacting them is obviously the lack of pre-season. Whereas you look at teams who've not added a lot of players, they might be performing a lot better compared to whereas Chelsea. I'm obviously looking at my team and making excuses for my
Wolves
team.
Are the same. Wolves are the same as well. That we've added quite a few players,
especially first team players. It's a case of our first team 11's changed quite drastically in terms of the shape and things like that as well. I know Wolves are the same. Unfortunately, on the weekend just gone, our last result, same with Wolves, it seems to have clicked. But then once after we come back from after the international break, it might change again. But yeah, it's definitely, especially when you look lower down, they've got to look at it from a lower league point of view, where no disrespect to lower league clubs, but they're not going to be drawing in people from here, there and everywhere. It is more likely going to be from that local community who are going to those games. Whereas, you laugh and joke obviously about me and going to Chelsea games and I live in Wales. And obviously there's people all over the world. I'm sure Wolves are the same. There's going to be lots of people who travel near and far to go to Wolves games and things like that. Whereas Shrewsbury, just for example, they're going to be close to Shrewsbury. They're not, and they might not be within the same county, but it's going to be local to them. And it's just, surely there's a way outside and things like that. There's a way around it and stuff. Yeah. Especially, we didn't mention it last week on a slightly different topic or related to it. Obviously about pubs and things closing now as well. But yeah, in Parliament, there's a pub in Parliament or something where they're allowed, because it's a canteen, they're allowing them to serve alcohol past 10 o'clock. That was true last week. It might have changed now. But it just seems one rule for one and one rule for another, and it's what it suits. Does that make sense? I know, obviously. Yeah. I know I'm going off on a ramble now at the minute, but football gets tagged with this hooliganism quite early on, and they're thinking, they'll not pay attention to it and stuff. Whereas in the minority of that might be even the minority of a minority will probably not take it seriously. But fans want to go back, and if you tell them, right, you've got to wear a mask, they'll probably wear a mask. If you say you can go back and you have to wear a mask, they'll probably go back and wear a mask, and that's it.
Yeah, well, I know that Borussia Dortmund managed to get a crowd of about 11,500, I think it was, at the weekend, socially distanced in their stadium, which I imagine has a capacity of about 50 or 60,000. So that's probably the maximum that we can hope for at the minute. But the only problem with opening up lower league clubs, for example, if you only open up non-league or up to League Two, then you'll find that all the Manchester United and Manchester City fans will go and watch Bury, or all the Wolves fans will go and watch Walsall, and they have to have limits on it, and they have to be able to trace contacts and things like that. But surely you can't buy a ticket now for games without having a supporter number and your address and things like that. So they know who's going to the games pretty much. I know that people do. They swap their tickets, and you've been as my dad before and things. Which
I mean, with the same person.
Yeah. But the only thing I'd say about the mad scores is that I only saw a little bit of it on Sunday night, and when I saw the Villa were 2-0 up very early on, and I thought, oh well, Liverpool will still win 3-2. But then when he got to the second half and they were 5-1 up, I switched it over for a second, and I saw 2 goals within 10 minutes to take it from 4-1 to 5-2. And it just seemed like a complete reserve game. Like there was 2 shots that I saw, and they both were in. There seemed to be, like you said, there's not that drive for the players to entertain so much.
Yeah.
I think there's been I haven't seen any quotes, but I was listening to a clip from Talk Sport with Adrian Durham last week saying that coaches are not enjoying it. Players are starting to realise what we're doing this for. Because, I mean, it's because of Sky and because of BT and their contracts that they have with the Premier League that football is still happening. If there weren't these multi-million contracts for football to be on television, I don't think that football would be back because, well, football is such a big business now that it doesn't really matter if the fans are there. The fans actually contribute a minimal amount of income to the football clubs. It's all about sponsorships, and it's caused even more disillusionment for myself about football. A year ago, I was already feeling it because of VAR taking away the spontaneous celebrations and stuff like that from goals. Now it's just become something on television, and for me as well, Wolves are so boring at the minute that I'm dreading the games coming. I'm quite glad that there's an international break, that this weekend is not going to get spoilt by football.
Well,
Wales are playing England, aren't they?
I was going to say there's a big game tonight. I'm going to check now whilst we were talking. I'm hoping it's not on whilst we're recording this, because we are recording this on Thursday. I think it is later on. It is.
I think it's 7:00 kickoff.
It's a friendly as well, so
the only thing I'd be interested in is if Connor Cody does play, but I can't imagine that he would in a game like this because of it being a friendly.
I don't know, because half of the England squad now isn't going because of them going to that party.
That big party.
Which, in fairness to them, I said at the time when it got announced, it was a surprise. To give Abraham the benefit of the doubt, it was a surprise party. So obviously he hadn't organised it or arranged it and stuff. So he'd obviously showed up, probably thinking, "Oh, I'm going to go out for a meal with my loved ones," and then this massive party or whatever and stuff. So I can understand from his point of view, it's a bit like, and he's come out and apologised, and so have the I think Sancho and Chilwell. But you're just there like, it's one of those another face palm moments where the current England crop are setting themselves up to be another golden generation which have failed for off field, but for something not on the pitch, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but it's
it's
other than topic. Football. Yeah. Other than football, this weekend there was, believe it or not, in October there was cricket to talk about in England, in Birmingham. It was the 2020 finals day, so it was supposed to happen on Saturday, and for the first time in its history, it went into a reserve day because it rained all day. And then so the plan was, because the forecast was bad on Sunday as well, but they did manage to play quite a lot. Because what happens is they play the 2 semi-finals and the final all on the same day. And the semi-finals were only 11 over games. They were much, much shorter than the 2020 that was supposed to be the format. So they managed to squeeze in the games in the afternoon and then play a 16-over final. But if that hadn't have happened, they were going to have a bowl out, I imagine, inside. So I imagine what would have happened was they'd have had 6 balls each, and whoever hit the stumps the most, they were going to have the semi-finals and the final like this. Wow. And I imagine they would have had to broadcast it. And it would have. So I was actually hoping that it was going to rain again, because this season's been so funny because of COVID, and it's been great to actually see some cricket and have the test matches stuff happen. But I thought that would be just the perfect way to end this really weird season, is to watch some people running up inside, throwing a ball at one stump. But it didn't happen in the end. And I think it was Notts Outlaws or whatever they're called. They actually won it in the end. So it's quite pleasing. But next year, Billy, if things are back to normal, I'm going to get myself a membership at Warwickshire, because it's just, it's about 10, 15 minutes away from my school, so that in the evenings after school in the summer, I can pop down and see some cricket after work, which would be...
Sounds good. I'm not going to say I'm going to join you there, Tom, because it's quite a distance away for me to just pop round. And...
You can come on a weekend, Billy. I'll take you to learn about cricket.
Yeah. Yes, that's fine. I've always found sports where there's like what I call a foreign object that you have to use to hit a ball. I've always struggled with them. Cricket, baseball, tennis, badminton. I've been okay.
Foot.
But that's too far away from. Yeah, that's why I play in goal now, because it's easier for me to get to that. It's quicker reaction time and stuff. But it's one of those things which I've never been good at. It's one of those things. I always hit the stumps. I go back and swing, and I always get myself out. It's never a case of I miss the ball. It's just I'm like obviously too close setting up. It's because of my long lanky arms and stuff. But it's one of those things. But
one of the thing as well from last weekend on Saturday in the pouring rain, had a huge job just to finish off the kitchen. Had to remove the fridge and the freezer and take them to the tip. So Dad came and gave us a hand doing that as well, because in Dudley, we've rigged the system, Billy. Don't tell anyone. And of all our 20 listeners, don't tell anyone. So you're only allowed one visit to the tip per day, and you're only allowed, you have to go to a particular tip if you live in our postcode. You can't go anywhere else. But I don't live in that postcode, but I have documentation that proves that I do live in that postcode. If you know what I mean. So me and Dad took the fridge and the freezer in our 2 cars, and that was quite an entertaining bit of information. I'll tell you that, Billy. Just been to the tip.
Well, just on what's been going on locally here, there was a protest in Cardigan on Saturday. Yeah, proper full on protests, people banging drums and all that sort of stuff. Basically, our listeners probably won't know anywhere about this, but the town of Cardigan is just all one street, but then they do have like a little back street which goes down off the main street and towards the car parks, and then round and then rejoins the main street up at the ends. So all the car parks are down the bottom. We're down. My parents' cafe is down near one of those car parks. And as a result of COVID, what they've done is they've made the high street. They pedestrianised it. So between 11 and 4, I think it is every day, or 10:30 and 4 every day, no cars are allowed along there. So what they have to do is they have to come down this little side street and along the bottom and all the way up. But there's a lot of houses along this street, and there's no pavements. So literally when you're walking down, these like buses and lorries coming down, and people are walking down these streets, and there's banners everywhere saying we want the high street back open because of all this pollution and all this noise and stuff like that. It's really like there's signs everywhere. I'll have to send you pictures and stuff after, because they've got massive like banners and stuff on the houses and stuff. It's really strange to see here about all this like upheaval and stuff. And you can understand, because it is dangerous. Like I walk up this hill every day to go to work and stuff, and I'm like, it's, you probably know the hill. You know the hill I'm on about. Where you go up into town and stuff, and you know how narrow it is. And stuff, and there's buses and things like that coming round and stuff. But it's bonkers how that no one's thought about. Oh yeah, this is not going to make sense because there's no path, and everyone's going to have to walk up and down these hills and stuff. So watch this space. You'll probably hear us on the news now this week saying Cardigan's egged the town council or something like that, or something.
Piers Corbyn will be there.
Yeah, we'll be there and stuff. But yeah, that's basically the main goss from Cardigan is this protest that was going on and stuff. But I had my day off on Monday, Tom. I know you like to know what I did.
I do. Go on.
I went to Dinas Island, which isn't an island, so I went on a walk around there.
There's a few places in Wales that are not islands, but they're called islands. Barry Island, for example.
Yeah. That's what I was about to say. Can you think of any other ones? But it was a nice walk. It was literally like round this little like footpath and stuff like that. Got lost as I always do. But it was really nice. Nearly got blown away because obviously it was wet and windy. It wasn't the most ideal weather conditions. But we'll have to go, Tom, when you come down in the next year.
Well, I was going to say because now, I don't want to make it all about COVID, but then now Welsh government want people from England to quarantine, don't they? Or it was something like that when they visit. But so I'll have to stay for 3 weeks. So we can have a week together.
Fine. But that's fine. Anyway, we've digressed quite a lot today. We've waffled on.
Yeah, go on then. So let's get to our key features. We've got hit us with a poll and believe it or not. Which one do you want to do first?
I'll start with the poll because it's quite funny.
Okay. Hit us with the poll.
So the poll this week was about biscuits.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So I'll read. So it was, we wanted to settle the hardest decision that faces the UK at the minute, which is the best biscuit. So the options I chose were chocolate digestives, hobnobs.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to go for brands.
No,
sorry.
No,
yeah. Chocolate. So you're talking McVitie's chocolate
hobnobs.
digestives. Okay. Yeah.
Party rings.
What? Billy.
Or jammy Dodgers.
Oh my gosh, you picked the worst. Well, the first two were okay. You can't ask party rings.
But Billy. Wait, Tom, it gets better. It gets better.
Oh my god.
I forgot to post it. I forgot to post this poll. So we've got officially had no votes because obviously I haven't posted it.
So last week's episode was called the one vote poll. This is going to be called the no vote poll.
So if you want to change any, Tom, we could do it ready for next week. So,
okay, well, I'll tell you now. The first two are okay.
I've actually made those four up, Tom. I hadn't picked. I was literally the 4 biscuits that came. So we could pick 4. 4 that come to mind. I'd written written thing. So yeah, what would you like, Tom? We've got hobnobs, chocolate digestives.
Okay, so digestives, hobnobs, bourbons, and custard creams.
Okay, that's
what you want. Jammy Dodgers. See, because those things and party rings as well, I wouldn't class as biscuits. They are
party food.
Yeah, party food, finger food.
Yeah,
treats.
It's got, here you are, just so it's on camera. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. No.
Yes, I can see it. Yeah.
There they are.
Okay,
backwards. Right. I'll post it ready for next week.
Well done. Yes, schedule it. We'll put it on so people can vote all week. Okay, so you've let yourself down there, Billy. Right.
So yeah. So here's your
believe
3,
it or not.
Yeah, here's your 3 news stories for this week. I'm just waiting for them to load up because I'm going to read the headlines and stuff. So there's a alpaca on the pitch. An animal stops a football match in West Yorkshire for 20 minutes.
Okay.
Hairdresser arrested for making voodoo dolls from customers' hair. Or Evel Knievel's son sues Disney over Toy Story 4 character.
Right. What did you say? Evel Knievel's grandson?
No, son.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I think I've seen the alpaca on the pitch story. I think. Although, did you see the other day there was a parrot that stopped a game? Did you see that video on Instagram?
No.
So it was a women's football somewhere, and they were about to kick off, and this parrot came and swooped down onto the striker's head, and they had to coax it off the woman's head with the ball, and it went on the ball, and then flew off. Parrots are huge, aren't they? You probably have seen them in the wild, but they're enormous. Yeah, so I don't know about the alpaca one. Where was the hairdresser voodoo one?
It was in America. It was in New
Oh,
Orleans.
okay, right. Well, that was the fake one then, because that's your giveaway. Whichever one you say happened in America, that tends to be the one that's fake. What was her name?
It was a bloke.
Okay, sorry, what was his name?
And his name was Mr. Azka.
Mr. Aska.
Enoch Azka.
Enoch. He's
Yeah.
not Welsh. Enoch.
No.
Enoch Aska. Okay. So he was into voodoo, was he? So where was he originally from?
He was originally from he's American, born and bred from Louisiana.
Okay. Have you ever seen The Disaster Artist?
No, but I've heard you were talking about it last week.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, I think you were talking about. Yeah, you were talking about what's his name?
Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah, you were talking about it last week.
Yeah. So yeah, I think he. Well, no, he says I'm from Oklahoma, but he sounds like he's from Poland.
Yeah.
So, right, and then Evel Knievel's suing Toy Story because of what's the character's name in Toy Story 4? I do know what you're talking about.
I know it's Duke Kaboom.
Duke Kaboom. Okay. Right. Again, Billy.
That's obviously a US story as well. That's in Las Vegas.
What's the name of Evel Knievel's son?
Evel Knievel's son is Easy. No, Kelly.
Easy. Kelly Knievel.
Yeah, Kelly Knievel.
Right. Okay, I think that the Evel Knievel story is true. I think that's the kind of thing that would happen. I think I've seen the alpaca on the pitch, so I'm going to go for the hairdresser voodoo story.
Well, Tom, you finally got one.
Yay! I should have asked some more detail about the hairdresser voodoo story.
Yeah, you probably should have. I thought I did pretty well to come up with that on the fly. Yeah, it was. I need to stop, like you say. It was because Evel Knievel was in America. I thought, right, if I go for two in America, because the alpaca one was in West Yorkshire, I thought, that's gonna throw him off and stuff. But like you say, that's ruined it for me probably, because I was like, right, I'll have two American ones this week to try and to compensate and stuff. But so that one was fake. Obviously, the hairdresser one. Evel Knievel's son, Kelly Knievel, is suing them, seeking damages for more than $300,000.
How can they get damages of what? He was portrayed as a toy.
False endorsement and unjust enrichment is the.
Come on.
Do you know who Duke Kaboom was voiced by?
Wasn't it? Was it George Clooney?
No, it was Keanu Reeves.
No. Okay, no.
Yeah. And then the alpaca one, which is one I thought you'd instantly go for because it was in West Yorkshire. Because an alpaca in West Yorkshire was Oscar. The alpaca. See, there was even a name. I thought he was going to ask me what was the alpaca called and things like this.
Well, I just assumed it was a wild one in West
Oscar
Yorkshire.
Apparently galloped into the game between Carlton Athletic and Ickley Town on Saturday from a nearby farm, and footage of what happened has gone viral. There's a picture and video and everything. It's quite funny. So the game in Wakefield went to 2-0 win from Joe Fleming and Joe Chiltilda. I don't think it says who actually won. It just says the scoreline finished.
Yeah, the Alpaca.
2-0. Alpaca 2, Ostrich 0.
Very good.
So yeah, there we are. Well done, Tom. Finally got one. I was thinking it was going to become a common theme of you just failing at every one.
No.
Yeah, but there we are.
No.
But
well, we're coming towards the end of the podcast of episode 46. Next week, Billy, if we record on Thursday, it will be exactly a year since we began the podcast, the 15th of October. Who'd have thought, hey, Billy, when we started? Can you remember what we spoke about on our first episode?
It was it the marathon? The fastest Kipchoge and his marathon run. Yeah, that was our first episode. And great. It wasn't like greatest feats, like greatest sporting feats or something along that. As in achievements. I think that was it. It was something like that.
Do you know what? I'll find out what it was, but I don't think it was. I think this was before we had topics. The first episode was just sort of
sport.
On
The sport
fly,
news, like sport news sort of thing.
Racism, Kipchoge, Japanese rugby.
Yeah, so obviously
then,
not sport's greatest achievements going off that
No,
title.
that was So episode 3 was greatest British sporting moments. That's the only one that we've had contributions from people when we bothered them.
Whoa! Other than the polls now, let's just get that right.
Sorry.
Obviously, the my great polls now.
My great polls. All right, Billy. But so linked to that, my recommend. So Rouse recommends this week is to. I always spoke to my children in my class about doing YouTube channels because I think for them, or for myself actually, I could really prove how much better I got at presenting or speaking to a camera, and that's helped me in terms of like interviews and things like that. So what I would recommend now, though, even more so, would be podcasts, just because they're going, particularly at the moment and the way that the world is, as a diary or as a record of your own lives going forward. I think that it would be amazing to look back in 20 years' time at these, even if we stop after next week, Billy. Not that we're going to, but even if we,
unfortunately, Tom,
I'll just be doing it by myself. But like I've really enjoyed doing my own podcast now over the last couple of weeks. That very, very short episodes, and I think I've done one every day. It won't be one tomorrow, but every day for the last couple of days, I've done some little story or sketch or something by myself. And it's given me something to look forward to at the end of the day when I come home and done it. And I think, if somebody enjoys it out there, then that's something positive. But I think it's been.
I know I've been enjoying doing mine, like you say. Not that we don't enjoy doing this one, but like I've done, just finished recording season 1 just before this of my podcast, and talking to the people that I met traveling and things like that. It's been great, and I think for me in particular, it's probably our podcast is probably more evident of how I've improved at doing this. If you went back to listen to episode 1, I probably still I still talk rubbish now. I'm not gonna lie. The content that I produce, that comes out of my mouth is probably still terrible, but at least I fall over less words than I did at the start and stuff. So, and I'm less statistical based, as you pointed out to me in one episode. So it's going good. Obviously with my poll, it's even better because now there's no statistics.
Really, I'll have a word with you in a couple of weeks saying, Billy, you really need to up the statistics. But I think people who listen to this assume that it's listened to by more people than it actually is. I was on the 77 Club podcast yesterday, which is the podcast that Harry Mansell is a pundit on, and we were talking beforehand, and he said, "So have you got like 1,000 listeners now?" And I said, "Yeah, well, we've got 1,200 in total." And he said, "Oh, I mean, like every week." I said, "Oh no, we get like 30 on a good week." Yeah, but it's because people who listen don't bother to share it with their friends because they know.
So listen and share.
And listen to my podcast as well, which has changed its name since last week. It's now called Rouse Every Weekend. It's called Rouse Every Weekend, and it's released daily.
We're gonna have to have a chat about that because that makes no sense. I was like, Rouse Every Weekend, and it's released daily. Tom, we need to change it.
Yeah, it's funny though. Rouse every weekend. But yes, so make
rambled on again.
Use Anchor as well, even though you've heard the advert at the beginning of the podcast. It's very, very easy to make podcasts, and it's very easy. Like I've been making most of mine on my phone, and so that's why there's more transition music and things like that. And well, you've made yours on Anchor as well, haven't you? Yeah, it's free as well. That's the big thing, because I've used other ones before where you've had to pay a subscription fee for the year. Yeah, and unless you're getting hundreds and hundreds of listeners every week, which if you're talking about nothing like we are, you're not going to get people listening, really, are you? Yeah. You're not going to get enough people to break even. So
it's one of those things and stuff. But where do they need to go, Tom? Because you've not.
They
mentioned...
need to go to Around the Podcast in 80 Days. What's your one called?
A Backpacker's Guide to Travel. but will probably be renamed to Tom's Around the World in 80 Days. You should name that Around My Thoughts Around My Mind in 80 Days. That should be your podcast name.
Oh man. Yes, so you can find us on Twitter. I haven't got the Twitter on my Twitter anymore, Billy. So I don't know what it is. I think is it
Scenes Podcast.
Podcast.
At Scenes Podcast.
I'll have to follow our own thing. Hang on, let me find out on Twitter. Scenes. There we go. Absolute Scenes Pod. I can see your 4-vote poll from the 21st September now. Well done, Billy.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And then oh, very good. Right. Yeah. So at Scenes Podcast on Twitter, Absolute Scenes Pod on Instagram, and continue to not follow us on those. Thank you very much, everybody. So Billy's podcast is called A Backpacker's Guide to Travel.
Well done.
My podcasts are called Show Us Your Kit and also Rouse Every Weekend, released daily. Just enjoy yourselves, and thanks for listening, Mom. We'll see you at the weekend. Bye.